And of course we had some timely rain here in Western Australia.
In many parts of Australia, the Country Hour remains as ever, a daily midday ritual. In places, radio is still the only immediate link to the outside world.
It's been a very good start to the morning, and getting really excited about jumping in the truck and heading down to Pannawonica for the rodeo tomorrow. There are huge swathes of this place that, you don't get a broadband signal, you don't get a mobile signal. And that takes a lot of people by surprise who sit there with their iPads and the TV and are consuming media from multiple sources, at the same time. But, that's the way it still rolls out here a lot of the time.
In a horticultural area this size, we expect to run into many problems, and I think this tree is a good example of one of our problems.
In the early years, the Rural Department unashamedly set out to use broadcasting to increase primary production.
It was a bit like trying to make two blades of grass grow where one grew before, because there was a great need after the war to increase production.
Say, Ray, I see you've been in the Army.
Oh, yes, I haven't. Not very long out of the Army. I was in Wewak with the 2nd 10 Commando Squadron.
Commando Squadron, well, that's a very good training.
In the early 1950s, the ABC started placing rural reporters in radio stations across regional Australia, and so began the tradition of broadcasting local stories to local audiences.
Probably, I suppose, 90–95% of the interviews we were broadcasting were interviews that we obtained by going out. You really got the I suppose it's authenticity. I mean, you were there, and you usually spend some time going around before the interview, looking at the property, talking about the things that might come up, what he was doing that was worthwhile and very different.
The Rural Department broke some of the big stories in Australian history. In 1951, Graham White of the Victorian Country Hour got a scoop, news of a revolutionary measure to combat the menace of rabbits.
Farmers and scientists are searching for new ways of killing rabbits. These vermin, although thought by many city people to be rather cute, are perhaps the greatest pests in the world. It's been estimated that if Australia were free from rabbits, we could keep more than 100 million more sheep.
I grew up where of a morning you'd go out and half the wheat crops and oat crops and barley crops were eaten out by literally millions of rabbits.
The symptoms are very easily recognised.
The brilliant chief of the CSIRO, Sir Ian Clunies-Ross, told White some big news.
We're going to release the myxoma virus. It'll become known as myxomatosis. We are confident it will prevent this country from being further eaten out, as the country was being eaten out by the rabbit problem.
Depends largely on the man on the land.
Myxomatosis would soon rank among the most successful biological controls in world history. The virus changed the fortunes of farmers and helped restore the ecology of a denuded continent.
This is the ABC. You're listening to the Country Hour.
Graham White was later involved in a controversy. He explained to Landline 20 years ago he accidentally overheard a conversation about a major fraud at the Melbourne markets.
It went something like this. I paid 10 bob for some cases, some went to 15. The best of them sold for £2. Let's tell the ABC 10 bob. I suddenly realised that the information that we were being given was not accurate information at all.
So the growers thought they were getting 10 bob, and
they heard the ABC say 10 bob a case. That's what they expected to be paid, and that's what they were paid. The fact that their produce might have sold for 3 times, 4 times, that was beside the point.
So it was a racket. We were threatening.
A real racket. And then a fellow who was buying for the Snowy Mountains Authority, this was the time of building of the Great Snowy Mountains project, he saw me and he said, look, the prices you're broadcasting aren't right. I'll give you the correct prices. I'll tell you what I pay for tons of potatoes every day and so on. Well, it's beside the point, but it was part of the story that this man lasted a week and then said to me, I can't give you the prices anymore. They shut him up. And then they put a knife in my stomach and told me that if I didn't broadcast the the prices I was officially given, I'd be bailed out of the bottom of Port Phillip Bay.
The ABC presents episode 5000 of Blue Hills by Gwen Meredith. It's the day of Granny's 90th birthday, and there's been a great deal of excitement. Typically, Ed doesn't approve of anniversaries. But meanwhile, back in Dunvegan, Meg and Jim review the day's proceedings with Granny.
Blue Hills was popular everywhere, but extremely popular with women. Hilda, or Nellie Lamport, Emmy and so on. They were household names.
Blue Hills, set in a fictional Australian country town, ran for 27 years and almost 6,000 episodes, all from one scriptwriter.
I'm as certain of it as one can be certain of anything where Mother is concerned.
I think with Blue Hills and Gwen Meredith's superb ability as a scriptwriter, as a dramatist and all that sort of thing, that helped keep the country hour together. But I think it really was an important part or a source of information.
Phew. Jack will be here very soon, I think, Fleur. Yes.
These were far more than mere rural soap operas.
I suppose he's told you that.
John Douglas had a very large input to Gwen Meredith about what he wanted highlighted, and he didn't want bull. He wanted the real thing highlighted. So if there was a problem with some type of parasite in cattle in Queensland, he'd get her to feature that, and with the way the remedy functioned.
Oh, whatever will Hilda say? For my clothes.
And of course, she put a lot of farming information into it. And in the very early days, we used to feed her with the actual information that was topical to the farming calendar.